everyone, this is Ayushi Gupta. Welcome to the 46th episode of Microsoft Art of Code brought to you by Millionlights. Millionlights is a TV channel dedicated to improving the skills of people and their employability. Now let me tell you a little more about the Microsoft Art of Code. Microsoft Art of Code is a series of lectures, courses, and talks by experts who are going to be discussing the latest Microsoft technology topics related to programming and industry forecasts that are all focused on employability. These courses are basically for people pursuing computer science. This content has been created by our partner Microsoft, and today we have Cristopher and Jon with us to help you building responsive UI with Bootstrap. Bootstrap is the most popular HTML, CSS, JavaScript framework for developing responsive UIs. This course will help you to develop good skills to create rich UIs for users and tips on building great-looking applications. Now let's move towards the course. In the previous episode, we covered page design. In this episode, we will learn the remaining portion of page design, and after that, we will move forward with Visual Studio and ASP.NET integration. So let's get started.
All right, so there is our placement. Now, the last big thing as far as layout goes that we want to talk about is controlling visibility. Now, the way that we do visible or control visibility is by flagging something as hidden or visible. And what that's going to do is make all the opposite the reverse. So if I say I want it to be hidden for XS, it's going to be visible for medium.
Yep.
If I say visible for medium, it's going to be hidden for XS. So you can show hide very easily based on your screen size. You can also, by the way, do this for printing. Because after all, when people go to print your page, you want to make sure that you get rid of things like navigation. Because after all, it's not like they're going to be able to hold up the piece of paper and tap on it and have it automatically update the text on there to be whatever it is that you might have been talking about. That'd be really cool if it did, but unfortunately, that's not possible. So what I want to do to close out my layouts here is I want to hide that image on a smaller device. Now, yes, because somebody's going to say it. There's other ways that I could do this.
Yeah.
You know, that I could go in and I could take a look at the header information, the browser string that came up. I could detect the type of browser and then just not serve the image in the first place. You're absolutely right. I was
just to be that annoying guy that because there are those people are whatever. There are responsive image classes as well.
Exactly.
You just need something to explain how to show this layout. So
exactly.
We'll go with it.
Yeah, there's a lot of different ways that you could, solve this. This is just the way that I'm going to solve it here.
Yep.
And I'm just going to hide this. So I'm just simply going to say, and I love this. Is just the IntelliSense. It's just fantastic. But in any event, I'm just going to say hidden XS. I'm going to come back over to my browser. There we go. I've got like 8 browser windows open now. So now if I shrink this down to a smaller size, now you're going to notice, sure enough, my image went away. So just like that, my little image went away. Awesome. All right, there's our layouts. Now, I want to close everything out. I'm going to go back to my slides here by just talking real briefly about forms. That one of the very nice things about our forms is that once again, it's just simply classes. And a lot of the functionality, first of all, that you're going to be looking for is already built into HTML5. And this goes back to a theme that we had earlier. You can use jQuery. You can use HTML5. You can use all of this with Bootstrap. So how do you get a placeholder to appear in a text box? Placeholder equals whatever you want the text to be. Done. How do you get the little @the.com to appear on the keyboard? Type equals email. Done. That's HTML5. Keep using HTML5. It will work. All right. Now, the couple little catches, however, is you are going to notice that by default, Bootstrap wants to use a vertical display, which is not necessarily a good thing. But it does want to focus highlighting, which is a good thing. And as with everything else, it is relatively easy to customize, that it's just going in and adding in the appropriate classes. Okay, so let's go in and take a real quick look at setting up a simple form here. So let me get out of my slides, discard my ink. There we go. And you know what? Let's real quickly here, right-click, add HTML page, album, entry. There we go. And let's go in and drag out our couple of items here. And perfect. There we go. And I want my Bootstrap and I want my jQuery. Okay, so let's just go in and kind of take a look at this real quickly here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add in a form. There we go. And then I'm just going to go ahead and say div. Actually, you know what I'm going to do is I am going to contain this. KS, HTML div, and let's go ahead and put this into a container, class equals container. And then let's, one more time, KS, HTML div, and let's contain that inside of a row. Class equals row. Beautiful. Okay, so now, well, I'm sort of changing my mind here. Don't mind me. There we go. I'm going to do it this way. Okay, so there's my little form. By the way, Control-K, Control-D, format document, Control-K, Control-D. Let me go in and real quick say label. And I'm going to say for equals, and let's say title. There we go. And title. And then let's go ahead and say input type equals text and ID equals title. And we'll just close that out. There you have it.
Yep.
So now what I'm going to do is I'm just simply going to save this, and I'm going to hit Control F5, and you're going to notice there's my title up at the very top. And it doesn't really do a whole lot. It's not giving me kind of that nice little display there. I want to do two things. Number one, I'm just going to add in role equals form, just tell it that it's a form. And then on that input box, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say class equals form control. And by my going in and doing that, now what you're going to notice is that I get the bigger text box with the rounded corners, sort of an inside joke if anybody who's listening knows the story behind rounded corners. Buy me lunch sometime, I'll tell you the story. But in any event, I've got my little input box with my rounded corners. All I had to do was just add in this little form control. The one little catch, however, is that unfortunately you're going to notice that it's vertical. And that's typically not the way that I want to see my controls. I want them to be horizontal. Well, stop me if you've heard this before. I need to add a class that I just need to go in and say form horizontal. And then I can go in and hit save and hit refresh. And you're going to notice it's still one on top of each other. The reason for that is I need to identify how I want all of this to actually look. So I'm just going to say col and MD, and I'm just going to do MD for right now. I'm just going to make my life a little bit easier. We'll so say col MD and 2. I do need to surround this with a div tag. I need to surround this with a div tag. I can't specify this on the input. I have to surround this with a div tag. So I'm going to say class equals col MD and 10. We'll hit save, come back, hit refresh. Why are you not? Oh, I forgot one little thing. Form group. There we go. Now that will I'm missing a class. That's what it's going to be. Form group. I've got my label. I've got all of that. 2 plus 10 is 12. class equals form horizontal, form group. I am missing something. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to make my life easier. Control K, Control X, Bootstrap, and I want form group, horizontal. What am I missing?
It says check. Some people are saying check the label.
And my label is good.
So you have form group input.
That's yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
This is always that yeah, see, let's see, control label doesn't actually matter, although it is nice because it does better highlight the fact that it's a label.
Mm-hmm. So form group and row. Is it because?
Yeah, it's because I've got it in a row. That's right. You know, this is the one little downside to going from the layout demo straight into the form demo.
Right.
Is my brain is on, okay, don't forget row, don't forget row, don't forget row, don't forget row. So I didn't forget row. The one part that I forgot, form group is automatically a row. That's why you don't need it. Yeah, there we go. So we'll just explode that on the screen there. Form group is automatically a row. There we go. That was a little part that I forgot. Now if I go in, I'm still missing something. Go in and hit refresh. It's still not working. What's different? Form group, label for class. The MD, I should be good there. The SM versus MD
one is
doesn't
medium
matter. That shouldn't matter. I'll go in and update it, but it won't matter. SM and SM.
There you go.
Wait a minute. Oh, ha!
We need a laugh track. Can we get laugh tracks added?
The last little mistake that I made, and this is just because I had my browser window too small, is I was just doing MD just out of habit.
Right.
And in fact, let me go back and update that back to be MD again, and I apologize for this. But now if I hit refresh there, you'll notice it stays there. Mm-hmm. It was that I resized down to small.
Oh.
Remember, small is automatically going to go to single column.
Right.
There we go. So in all actuality, this sort of works out really well because it gave us the opportunity to see everything at resizing there with our forms. In any event.
And thanks to all who were playing along at home. There were several people saying, hey, what small screen? They're just coming up actually as you typed it.
Yeah. So that's funny. In any event, so the takeaway from that module, again, tables but not tables. 12 columns, automatic screen sizing. Take advantage of all of that. John's been manning the chat window here, and I'd be willing to bet that if not the most, it's certainly in the top 3. Popular question in there is probably, how do I change the number of columns that are available? And my answer is going to be very simple. Can you in theory? Yes, of course. It's all CSS at the end of the day. Don't. Stick with it. That you're going to notice you still get all the flexibility that you might want when laying everything out. And also, as John mentioned, 12 is a pretty good number. It's not like 3, which is a magic number, but again, showing my age. But 12 is a very good number because it's divisible by 2, it's divisible by 3, it's divisible by 4. So the typical ways that you're going to want to divide things out, it's all going to be there.
Now, if I can jump in just for a second, there was one good question.
I like that you raise your hand.
Yeah. Teacher, I'm the only one here.
Yes, Mr. Galloway, you have a question?
Thank you. One person said, well, what about 7 if I have a calendar 7 days of the week? That's actually a decent one. That was the first where I was like, okay, fine. So you could just do 1 through 7. Another thing I just want to point out.
You could also offset and kind of push that around as well. Yeah.
Just so for people who are dying of curiosity, if we can cut to my screen here, up in the header, if I click on Customize, and I'll be showing this later, but if I click on Customize, and then it's going to spin away because Christopher's downloading something over there, and then there's this less variables, and if I scroll down and click on Grid System, I can actually change the number. So here I'm generating my own version of Bootstrap. You can change everything in here. This is a preview of coming attractions, and I'm not going to go anymore here.
Right.
But yes, you can do it.
Yes. But again, think long and hard about it. Yeah, you know? All right. With that, I don't know about you guys, but I'm starving. So what do you say we grab a meal, and we're going to return at the top of the hour. And John, you've got a burger.
Yes, that is about the size of the burger I'm hoping.
Even more. There you go. It just keeps getting bigger and bigger. But anyway, let's go ahead and grab a meal, and we'll see you guys at the top of the hour.
And there we are.
There we are. Welcome back.
Yep.
This is building responsive UI with Bootstrap. Still John Galloway.
Still John Galloway.
Still Christopher Harrison. And before we get into the next module, there's a couple of last little things that we just want to kind of reiterate from before. First of all, there's been a lot of chatter in the Q&A window, which has been fantastic.
Thank you.
Thoroughly enjoy the banter back and forth. But there's been a lot of questions around, in particular, the Bootstrap snippets and around NuGet packages. So I just want to highlight kind of real quickly both of those. First of all, that Bootstrap snippets, that's what's going to give you that IntelliSense inside of there. Do keep in mind that you are going to need to shut down and open back up Visual Studio. But where that's located is if you go under Tools and then Extensions and Updates. And then inside of here, you're going to notice I already have it installed. But you're going to notice that if you just go to Online, you can do a search right inside of there. And it's just simply Bootstrap. And give it a second here. And then it will be Bootstrap snippets, which would be up towards the very top. And then you would have an install button right there, which I don't have because, well, I've already installed it. Yeah. Hey, clever like that. So that's where you're going to go to install that. The second one is there's been a lot of questions about the version of Bootstrap that we're using. We're using version 3.2. How do you update that? Well, the way that you update that is by going into Manage NuGet Packages. And then under Updates, you can see all the packages that you might have for that particular project that need to be installed. Now, you are going to notice that there's no automatic updates here. And to a certain extent, that's kind of a bad thing because you have to remember to go back and update it. But in the long run, it's a good thing.
Definitely a good thing.
Every developer on the planet has some horror story that they can tell you that they went in, they updated a DLL, they updated a JavaScript file from version X to version X.0.0.1. And all of a sudden, nothing worked anymore. Right. So by allowing you to manually go in and update each package individually, assuming that there aren't dependencies, it gives you a lot more control over when you're going to upgrade everything. So just a couple little things that I wanted to highlight.
Yeah, and if we can cut over to my screen here. So the things I wanted to point out, just to drive that point home, he's using an empty ASP.NET project, so there aren't any other dependencies. Here's what I've got in mind. So this was File New Project, and these are all the things that have updates available. And these are things I need to make my decision whether I'm going to install them. So for instance, jQuery, by default, it's installing 1.10.2. And I could update to 2.1.1, but keep in mind that I'm going to lose support for older versions of IE there.
Right.
So this is something where it really does make sense to to look at these and to read through and to understand what's involved in those updates.
Exactly, yeah. So, kind of choose wisely, and that's why none of that is automatic. Because again, there's so many different combinations of JavaScript files, applications, DLLs. Sometimes it just doesn't work because it's the second Tuesday of the month. It seems that way sometimes. But anyway, it gives you more control that way.
Yeah, yep.
So,
And okay, so one other thing I wanted to point out before we dig into this next session is back on my screen again here, we've got, these are the, we have been checking the code in at the end of each session, you know, after a few minutes to get things straightened out. But we've been
get another drink of water.
Exactly, but we've been pushing things up. You can see all the updates through the day. So you can see we've got kind of the, you know, here are the, this is the current version of Cristopher's demos, and then in each of these, if you look, for instance, here's my components. I've got 2 of them there. You know, we've got snapshots of them, so you can see we're pushing the code up as we go. So I just want to make you aware, if you're interested, if you missed some code that we typed and you'd like to see what's happening, you can find it there. That out of the way, let us talk about Visual Studio and ASP.NET integration.
Let's do it.
Okay, so here's the outline. Here's what we'll be covering. Browser link, which is magical and definitely very helpful in working with.
So cool.
Yeah, working with front-end code. This is really, really helpful. We'll look at what's in the templates by default. Cristopher showed that a little bit earlier. We'll dig in a little deeper. Then we're going to kind of go beyond and we'll talk about scaffolding optimization, both in MVC and in web forms. And then finally, we'll show off some of the kind of top tools. We've been using them throughout the day, but I just want to make sure you know about them. And time permitting, we'll dig into bundling and minification a little bit. So, browser link. So the idea, earlier in the day, I went through and I changed my CSS, and all of a sudden it was updated in the browser. Whoa, what happened there? And that is because Visual Studio has the ability to connect to multiple running browsers, anything running on local hosts. So you'll see in this screenshot here, we've got IE, we've got Chrome, and some no-name phone here in the middle, phone emulator. And because it's all running on localhost, then it's got a socket connection, and that means as I make changes in the browser, it's pushing that out to any connected browser on my localhost. Really handy. So let's take a look here. So I've got, this is code that I was running earlier today. And here, instead of just, let me see, I'm going to do, okay. So
the sound effects help.
Okay, so I'm going to say browse with. And instead of, like, I can have a default browser, but I can also say browse with. And here I'm picking, I would like, you know, say for instance, Chrome and IE, right? And so then when I say browse, and I can set a browser size, so we'll say 100 by 600, I'm going to click browse. And we'll zoom out so we don't all get dizzy. Okay, so this is bringing this, here's the browser coming up. I just want to show you with everything side by side. So yes, it is very crowded to try and fit all this together, but just want to show so it's very clear what's happening, right? So if I could grab the handle here, which I don't seem to be able to do. So, you know, maybe this will be a short demo.
This is one of those while you're kind of positioning everything.
Yeah, exactly.
It's worth mentioning, this is fantastic on multiple monitors. That I actually have 3 monitors back at my desk, and so what I'll do is I'll have either 2 browsers on one window, or I'll have one on one and one on the other, and then I'll have Visual Studio in the middle, and I'll go in, I'll make the handful of changes that I want, and then I'll just simply hit a real quick refresh, and then I'm able to just quickly see what updates have been made.
Yep.
And I know that you've got everything positioned, but I just want to also mention real quickly, you don't have to launch the browsers from that window. That if you navigate to, in this case, localhost :12463,
really good point.
That's where the application is being hosted. You'll actually notice that you can still do that browser link, even though that you didn't navigate directly through it.
Yep. Yeah. So just to make that clear here, I'm going to bring up Chrome. Oh, I shouldn't have done that. There we go. Okay, and so I'm browsing to it there. So this wasn't launched from Visual Studio in that case. And then now let's look at a few things it can do. So first of all, if I go in and I want to find out where it's saying the application name, so there it says application name index home. So I want to say, you know, my cool site, and I save that. So then over here now, because that didn't go across, let me go to something smarter. I'm going to go to let's go to the index. There it is, Bootstrap components, and I'll just say, and save that. And that should be, not sure what I'm doing wrong there. That should be updating. So you saw me doing it earlier, and it was working. So it's the after lunch something going on. But the idea is, as I'm typing there, it can sync over. It can also, I can go in and make changes using the inspect element, and it'll push them back over into the code. Now, because that wasn't working, it's very possible that this one either, and I'm doing something wrong. I want to show two other things. One is I can click on inspect, and as I move around, you'll see as I'm moving around in the in the browser in Chrome over on the right, it is highlighting the line of code in the correct file. So here it's in layout CSHTML because I'm in the header. As I move down into the page, it switched over into the actual view I'm working on. And then one other thing here is if I go into design mode and I click design, I can actually type in here. And so, get rid of those. And you notice as I type over there on the right, that's actually pushing those changes from the browser back over into my source code.
Yeah, which when you're playing around with Bootstrap, a lot of times it's just easier to just go in and update the screen itself. That a lot of people have been asking, well, how about a WYSIWYG editor?
Right.
Well, how about just use the browser?
This is about as close as it gets.
Exactly, yeah.
And so, we've done demos about this before in other MVAs. I'm not going to go into huge detail, but I just want to remind you it's there. And the reason is because, if I can go in and start changing things like these classes, and if I do something like that, and then this makes it quick to go in and, I can see exactly, okay, that isn't working, what did I do wrong? And then I can go in and make changes. So I think I'm actually running this out of a OneDrive for Business folder, and I think that is goofing things up, and I should not have done that, lesson learned. But that does make it very quick as I'm making the changes. One thing also that it does do is it's pretty good with syncing HTML, but with CSS is really where you'll see. So if I go in and make changes to the CSS, you'll see those changes happen immediately. So I can go in, I can say, something like body, I can say ground color red, and then as I save that, you'll see it push over. So you see there it did, without me going in and refreshing either, it pushed it over to both of them. And there's the culprit. It's because I'm running out of that sync folder, which was just really stupid.
Ah, okay.
Yep. So lesson learned there. But so the point is that it will sync over, and it also does sync as well with emulators. So, just I think it's smarter in the interest of time, just trust me on it. But it does work as well with going into the phone emulator.
Yep.
Close current tab, and we'll do that, and we'll do that, and we'll go back in. Great. Okay. And there's plenty other stuff on Channel 9, especially on BrowserLink. You can find, whole long demos on it. You can do all kinds of crazy stuff with it. So now let's go on to templates, and I want to look at what is in the box. And so I am going to, we'll keep looking at that one there because it's still going to mostly work for this. So actually, we'll do File New Project. No, I haven't changed this much. We'll be good here. When I go in and create a project, I have a screenshot here. That's what I wanted to do. So when I do File New Project, you'll see on the left, I've got an MVC application. On the right, I've got a Web Forms application. What's hopefully obvious is that they're really pretty darn similar. So let me see if I can pull this off. If I do that, pen, is this going to work for me? And if I do that, there we go. So CSS, same fonts. If we went into the scripts here, we've got the same Bootstrap. So, really the point is, this is really cool that they're the same, right? So obviously the dependencies are the same. Also, really the layout, pretty much identical, which means it's great. You can use skills, code, CSS, etc., back and forth between the two.
And so that was just file new project on both of those. And one was the web forms, one was MVC. They both came with the exact same Bootstrap.
Yep. So they're
awesome.
They're what's
it's
included.
One ASP.NET.
It sure is. Finally.
Yes.
Okay. So to kind of highlight what we've got there. So obviously the CSS. Those are the CSS classes that let you do all that stuff. Those glyph icons I showed you earlier, those are pulled in as font files. So that is this and this. Boy, it is. Once you start drawing, you just keep wanting drawing. So and you'll see those.
It's addictive, isn't it?
It is.
You're just releasing your inner John Madden.
So now you're wondering what are all these? I've got TTF and WOFF, and there's a lot of different web font files. And in order to get cross-browser support with modern and older browsers, et cetera, you've got support SVG, scalable vector graphics, TrueType. EOT is another older font form. So there's a lot of different font formats, and this gives you all of those. JavaScript is, Christopher is going to be showing you that later, and those are those things where things just all of a sudden magically work. Includes even things like, I don't think you'll show this, but transitions and animations, which are
it does have that capability.
Yep. And then finally, one nice thing, of course, is that these are referenced in the layout. If you're in MVC or if you're in web forms, it's in the master. And then there's also, so it's all kind of wired together as well. So if you just included the NuGet package, you would get this stuff, you would get those files, and then the references are what you have to add manually, or if you just do file new project, you'll see that. Okay, so now I need to discard, unfortunately, that artwork. So just as a reminder,
I'm so disappointed.
Yeah, as a reminder,
I was going to ask you to print that so I could frame it, put it in my office.
Well, let's go back then. I'll do that. I think I remember myself. So this is file new project. What you'll get here. So again, just kind of standard look and feel. This is all driven by Bootstrap. Okay, so let's just quickly look at. I'm going to do that file new project. Actually, I've decided, changing my mind. So here, file new project. This is my third web application ever. This time I'm going to do web forms. Just give some equal time here. And I'm going to close this guy. There we go. Okay, so it's scaffolding everything out. You notice if you look quickly down in the corner in the status bar, it goes through and it says adding this NuGet package, adding that NuGet package, and some of those are for Bootstrap. Okay. So now if we go in, we'll see this content. There we've got our CSS. Oops, I don't know what I did there. There's our CSS, right? Then we've also got our scripts. Here's our Bootstrap. We've got our fonts. And then the important kind of putting it all together is we have the site master.
Default ASPX.
Yep, I know, fond
site
memories.
Master.
Right. So here's the site master. The important things I want to point out here. One is, no, that's not what I want to look at. It's part of the bundling. And then this should actually look relatively similar to what we've been looking at earlier today. So once we, there's some web form specific stuff here. For instance, these scripts here, the bundling that brings in Bootstrap here is using the script manager. Okay, so slightly different. Once you get past this stuff and get into the actual meat of the page where you're looking at the HTML, it's the same HTML, right? So that's very handy.
The login can,
Fond memories, right?
Yeah.
Yep. And actually, we did have some questions on, how do we integrate this stuff in? Generally, more of the recent web forms controls have used templates. And so here, we'll zoom in here a bit. So any of these, anonymous template, login template, I was more of a fan of the list view, as you're moving away from like grid views and things that really generate a lot of the HTML, if you can move to ones that are allowing you to insert HTML templates.
And that'll make the transition, if you decide to MVC, that much easier.
Exactly. And they also make it a lot easier to put in these classes right there. So instead of generating that on the, in back-end code, you're actually just using templated code to do that. Great. So there we go. I don't know what I'm doing there.
You're rebroadcasting our broadcast.
Oh, nice.
Yep.
Okay, so that's really it, as far as the templates go. That's what's in the box. Now we'll look at a little bit of scaffolding optimization. So we looked at File New Project over and over today. And File New Project is generating code for you. And that code is going to include, obviously that navigation stuff, but it also will include other content in the page, for instance, editing scaffolds and that kind of thing.
Yep.
So we can customize what HTML is output, and we can take advantage of it to do more bootstrappy stuff. Right?
More bootstrappy stuff.
Exactly.
Yes. Yep.
We can bootstrapify it. So we can do that either per project using scaffold templates, or we can do that at a shared level, so meaning multiple projects we can share that. I'm going to be mostly looking at per project because the shared stuff honestly is a little bit tough. But I'll at least point you in the right direction. Okay.
Language lessons from John Galloway.
Exactly. There's a whole conjugate the word bootstrap.
As far as I'm concerned, you can add able, if I, and s to the end of any word.
As long as you don't start using nouns as verbs and verbs as nouns.
Then okay.
Good.
All right. Okay.
All right. That's
funny.
my only ask for you today.
Okay. All right. I'll do my best.
Okay. So here's what I
hate the verbification of the English language.
Okay. So back to my happy place. Let's talk about what to change and what not to change. So here are some suggestions on things that make sense to change when you're changing scaffolding. One is table classes. That's a pretty obvious quick win here. And so you have, we talked earlier, Christopher said tables, don't want to use them for navigation, want to use a grid. That's true. What are tables good for? Tables are good for tabular data. If you want something that looks like it's in Excel or something like that, right? Then
Yep.
that's a table of data. Tables are actually pretty good for that.
And that's it. Tables are good for tabular
data. So
yes.
So as an example, I need to get out of there, and I need
not laying pages out.
Let's go here. And so tables actually can look pretty darn good. Let me see. So if I go into the CSS area, and there it goes. Here it goes. All right, tables. So here's an example of some of the different tables. Basic table here. Notice, this looks generally pretty good. And making tables look pretty in HTML, still kind of a pain in the neck. So just to be able to say...
That's a polite way to put it.
Yes. So to be able to say table class equals table, which yes, is actually kind of silly, but to say table class equals table and get this look up here is a thumbs up for me. If I had that icon ready to paste right in here, that's still thumbs up. And then you can do stuff like striped, bordered, and even hover rows. So notice as I'm hovering over this that it's showing that indication. So pretty nice stuff. We can even have danger columns, danger rows. That is the danger zone. Out of scope for today.
Okay, so into it.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so those are some of the main things. Things where you may want to go further for your scaffolding. If you want to customize tabs, say for instance you want your navigation to use tabs, you could definitely do that. Groupings, like I showed, navigation, also a fix. I forget. I don't think you show a fix, but
I do show a fix.
Okay, so I'm not going to spoil that. What I recommend you don't do is change around your design. So anything, you're not going to want to change your scaffolding to make the page design look different. Think about, you don't want to break anything. You don't want to change something that would cause changing a theme to break, if that makes sense. So design kind of things, pulling things left and right and all that kind of stuff, that's more of a CSS kind of thing. Alrighty, so let's look at scaffolding. And so here we get into, this is a new web forms application, which is nice, but actually I'm going to start with a new MVC application, which is going to be is number 4. So here we're going to MVC, and the reason I'm doing this is because customizing scaffolding is a little bit simpler with MVC than it is with web forms, although it's possible in both now. So when I go in and I create a new model. So let's create a new model, which is a person model, maybe. I guess I'll do an album just to keep with. Right, sure. Okay, so we'll give it a couple properties. Int ID, string title, and prop string band. Okay, so there we go. So now we want to go in and we want to scaffold this out. So scaffolding is the process of creating a new controller and views that go with that controller based on a model type. So I'm going to say add controller. This brings up this scaffolding dialog. So we went into this in more detail in our recent MVC MVA. I'm not going to explain it all here. But here,
by the way, if you are more interested in this while John's kind of doing his thing over here, it's definitely worth mentioning the fact that we did an MVA on exactly this. So if you are curious about how MVC works and want to get started, you can definitely check out our MVA on that. And it actually just went live, like about 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago. So yeah, definitely check it out. So yes, there may or may not have been spaghetti jokes during.
Okay, so here I'm scaffolding this out. So what it's doing is it creates a controller that's going to allow me to view, edit, delete, all that, a list of albums. It also creates these, for instance, if I want to look at a list, it's going to create a simple table that shows all my albums here. So I'm going to run it. We'll just take a look just so we know what we're working with, right? So I'm going to go in. Here's my album list. And we'll create a couple of albums. All right, so create new. We'll create, title, the first album. And this is the Christopher Harrison singers.
Nobody would want to buy that, let me tell you.
And then this one will be the reunion album.
Because you didn't have the in front of it.
Oh. Well,
apparently we changed our name.
Yeah. Ooh, well, and so just to show, here I can go. Boom, okay. Great. So this is your standard table. And it's actually not bad. So what is it doing for us? If you look at, this is because it is table class equals table. So it is using the standard Bootstrap table. Nice. And that's what I'd want them to do. I wouldn't want the scaffolding system to make assumptions about what kind of table I want. However, I want a striped table and I want that hover table. And I may want condense. I'm still thinking about it. So there's that. One other thing I did want to point out, if this is bugging you, table class equals table, stand by. We're going to talk about this during that last session. Okay? 'Cause this can be fixed. Okay, so we scaffolded this out. It created some views. The views create HTML that work pretty well, but I want to take a little more control here. So I'm going to close this. I'm going to delete my controller and my views. And one of the nice things about scaffolding is, since it was very easy to create the views, it's very easy for me to delete them as well. I just don't care. So now I'm going to right-click, and I'm going to add, and I'm going to add a new item. And my new item is a special one using the side waffle template. So now here's...
I still love that name, side waffle.
It's pretty good. So now it's time for a quick little segue. I'm going to go to sidewaffle.com. Side waffle. So they explained this to me a few times. I still don't completely get it, but the idea is if you go to a restaurant and you order something and you're having trouble deciding, do I want that delicious steak or a waffle? then you can order the steak and then get a side of a waffle.
I did that with a pancake the other day.
There you go.
I wanted the hash, and and I ordered a pancake.
You got a side pancake.
So I got a side pancake instead of a side waffle.
Very similar.
Yes.
Very similar.
Right.
So side waffle you can add things to a project. Right-click, add CSS. Right-click, add JavaScript file, whatever. Well, side waffle includes a bunch of other awesome web things. And by other, I mean a ton of other stuff. So I'll just give you a quick example of a few things just to kind of point some out. An SVG file. I'm a fan of SVG. This makes it easy to do that. A README Markdown file. That's nice. There are things in here like even, just to show that it's kind of a lot of stuff. If you wanted to create a Google Chrome extension, it's got everything you need for that. If you wanted to create, a blank scaffolder, anything to do with AngularJS, there's tons of stuff to do with that, right? So there's even something like a basic build script, okay? So this is a great way to add in a bunch of other, when you say right-click, add item, if I want a lot of cool stuff, I can add in Sidewaffle, again, a free Visual Studio extension. Okay, so I'm going to type in scaffolding and narrow down the list. There it is. So I want to add in the ASP.NET scaffolding T4 files. There are other ways to get these. You can dig around on your computer for them. But these are the templates that are used to create that scaffolding. So these are kind of boilerplates that it'll go through and it'll say, okay, you want to scaffold something based on this model. Well, I'm going to play fill in the blank and I'm going to, fill this stuff in for you. Mm-hmm. So for instance, if I want to look at the list template, this is what is used to generate the output page for a list. So here, where it says H2 view name, that view name is generated based on the type of model. But here I could say, this is the spot for, right? So I can start filling that out. I can also, if I wanted, I could put this in a Jumbotron, right?
Yay, Jumbotron.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if I feel that crazy. Maybe. We'll think about it. But I definitely do want to change my table. So here's where I can do that. So here, table class equals table. Well, let's do a little more with that. So I'm going to go in to my table, and I would like to add, I think, table hover, and I also want table condensed. Okay? So I'm going to grab this table hover class. Oh, goodness. I should just type it in. I don't get that autocomplete in there because it's a T4 file, which is a different type. So that's one thing I got to get right.
Don't forget to take out the dot.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. That was a mistake I would make, and I was just...
I would definitely have just made that. Okay, and I'm also going to do condense. Now, when I save this, absolutely nothing happens. Nothing is changing until I scaffold it. And just because I want to have a little bit of fun, I want to also put in a thumbs up here. So it really is time, if you'll just indulge me for a second while I put in that thumbs up. So I need to grab my glyph icon. And it would be really cool actually if I, I want a star, right? So I could do, that, and I believe it's just span and put those classes in.
It is.
Yeah, there, so span. We'll do search, that'll be fine. Okay. So I just want to show this is, you can scaffold up as much as you want. Okay. And which one was it? I think glyph icon push pin. That sounds good to me today. Okay. So there we go. Again, so far nothing has changed. All we've done is change our template. Okay. So now I'm going to go in, I'm collapsing that up. So that sits here in my project. It is only used for scaffolding, and that's all it is. It is good though that it's part of my source code. Mm-hmm. This important source artifact. So this is something I'm going to check in, source control and all that. This is part of my project.
Okay.
So now I'm going to go in and rescaffold.
So you just told Visual Studio what to do when it goes in to create that view for you.
Yep, and I only did the edit view. I can go in and start changing all of them.
Okay.
And I recommend, if you want to go in and start, if you know Bootstrap well, as you start learning it, maybe you want to change everything about it, right? So you can do that. So now I'm going to go in and we'll take a look at our list, our index. Okay, so here, this is a spot for index because it's an index view. It's got my glyph icon, which is nice, but more importantly, it's got that. Okay, so if I was only doing this for one, no big deal. But then as I go in and I start creating other models, it's going to use this for every time I scaffold. So just to drive that home, so I'm going to go in, I'm going to add a new model. This is going to be a person. Person's just going to have an ID and a name.
Tab.
Yes. Int ID.
Deflated man, person man.
All right. So now I'm going to go in and we're going to scaffold that out. And we're just doing this to make it obvious what's going on. That every time I scaffold in this project from now on, it's going to use that new template, right? So I'll go in, I'll say, I would like this to be now with the type of person. It's going to continue to use that same data context class. Scaffold it out. Okay, and so now let's look at my person view. And my person view is going to, that's pluralized to people. So my people index. And again, here's all that wackiness there, and it's using the right template. And now just, it would be mean to show you all that and not actually take advantage of it. So we're going to run this and we're going to look at the list of albums. And now we should see that we can hover over them, which is nice. Its list didn't work because I did something wrong.
Oh, you have a code migration.
Oh, dear goodness. Okay, so I'm going to, I think, give up.
You know what? Just try this real quick.
Yeah.
Delete the person.
Delete the person completely.
Yeah, delete the person controller. Delete.
Yeah,
you'll have to stop debugging.
Yeah.
But yeah, just delete everything about the person. So delete that.
Hopefully that'll just get us back to steady.
Yeah, delete the controller and delete the class.
And burn the entire studio to the ground. And let's take a look at the context. And I'm going to get rid of that guy. And if that doesn't work, the other thing that does work is just changing the, in web config, changing the name of the database, but it just rubs me wrong. Okay, so album, index. So if that's, yeah, there it goes. Okay, so here, thank you.
You're very welcome
for prevailing. So there we've got that. So first of all, we've got
the studio is still standing, by the way. Just
So here we've got our push pin, and here we've got our hover. So just very simple actually. To go in and start kind of making it your own.
And this is really something that I hear frequently from people who like the scaffolding in MVC and Visual Studio, because I really dig that. A lot of times you just need something real quick and easy, or you just want a better starting point. That I'm not always a fan of the different forms and tables and so forth that it creates. I really want to be able to go in and better put things together that match our design. And so having that capability is fantastic. And then, of course, at the end of the day, Bootstrap is nothing but HTML, CSS, JavaScript. So it's not like it's not unlike scaffolding anything else. I think I said that correctly. It's just like scaffolding anything else, that it really is just that HTML. That's wonderful. That's really cool.
It is nice, and you can imagine, given 15 more minutes or whatever, which I don't have, but using Bootstrap and then using something like data tables or some other Java or jQuery plugins and making a searchable table, right? So I can narrow in on this table. I could do quite a bit. And once I've got something I like, I can put that into my templates, and then I can reuse those templates among other projects as well, just copying those in.
Yep, absolutely.
So that is MVC scaffolding. So now I want to show you using web form scaffolding. So this is actually a relatively new thing. We have added in a new scaffolding system And so one of the things I've got installed is web forms scaffolding right there. So this is actually, it's open source, and it is a scaffolding system. You can find the source code for it out on GitHub. And what this does is it allows me to go in and I can create a new model and do the exact same kind of thing. So if I was smart, I would have copied that over, but instead I'm just going to retype it. So I'll do a person, right? And then this guy is also going to have an ID.
By the way, he's using code snippets there. If you just type out prop and then go tab, it'll automatically give you that, which is pretty slick.
Snippets really are pretty great. And, and that whole thing, the reason that these items are highlighted is to allow me to do that. So I can tab, and move between them. So actually, this is kind of interesting. There it is. My mouse is not working. I think I'm out of batteries or something. Fortunately for me, I have a touch screen. So I'm going to, what was I going to do? So I'm going to right click on this, and that might be a little interesting.
Hold down, and it will bring that, Yeah, if you hold down on it, and then release.
There we go.
There's your right click.
Add, and then I'm going to say add new scaffolded item. And here I can say web forms, because I've installed that extension, and then I say add. And then I'm going to pick for model class. There we go.
There we go.
Thank you.
Thank you, Barry.
And actually, the battery was fine. It was just a trick to get him on the screen. We promised we were going to do that.
The problem is he controls the cameras.
Too bad. Foiled again. Okay, so here I'm going to add this in. I believe, I forget, I can say that. And then I'll say add. So this is scaffolding as well. And I'm not going to get into actually, yeah, I can show the scaffolding templates. What's the trade-off here in MVC, you have to go in and install those scaffold templates.
Right.
It's all kind of behind the scenes. That leaves your project looking cleaner, and a lot of the time you don't end up customizing scaffolding. Well, the way that web form scaffolding works is it actually it shows you all these field templates, and they're added directly in. The nice thing with this is I can customize how anything works. So for instance, if I say text values, I want to go in and put some special Bootstrap class only on text. Or if I want to say only on integer edits, or only on email addresses, right? So I can go in and really start kind of taking advantage of all this stuff at that level.
Nice.
And so I can also go through and I can modify those are field templates, and so I can go in and start kind of changing the way that all this stuff is going to work, right? So that's really kind of where I would get started in making those changes.
Okay.
And while I'm at it, that actually kind of segues into the next level, which is kind of customizing a little bit more. So to customize MVC, got this little link here I'm copying. I don't even know, copy. Apparently it's difficult to copy.
It's the after lunch.
There it is.
Copy issue. I'm just going to keep rolling.
So here we have custom MVC templates. This is out on the ASP.NET site. Here's the URL for it right up there. And so this tutorial shows how to go in and create a new MVC template. What this does is you do file new MVC, and it actually allows you to extend that out. Now this is for the MVC 3 style. So these are kind of the older ones. There's also, in Sidewaffle, there's something where you can go in and create scaffolders and also project templates, which is somewhere in here. So if I want to create a custom project or custom scaffolder, visual. There's a blog post here as well, creating a custom scaffolder for Visual Studio. This will show you how to kind of get started and do that.
Right.
This is not something you're going to do in a few minutes. This is good, pretty much a day's work.
Yep.
And you need to understand what you're doing. But this is where if you want to really get in and change something, the benefit here is that this is going to make it so that you can reuse this among different projects.
Okay.
So the big kind of thing I was pointing out there, scaffolding, you can do per project using scaffold templates, or if you want to do multiple places, you can do custom project templates or custom scaffolders.
Awesome.
That's all in this episode. I hope this tutorial was helpful. In the next episode, we will continue with Visual Studio and ASP.NET integration, and after that, we will move towards another topic, which is JavaScript functions. Is your mind ringing with questions, queries, or doubts? Do you wish to learn more? Then visit our website, www.millionlights.org, and post your questions on our forums. We will be extremely happy to clear all your doubts. If you missed anything and want to rewatch it, you can download it from our website or can watch it online as well. You can also participate in our webinars, discussions with the subject experts, as well as get Microsoft certification on various courses through our website. You can also find us on Facebook by the name Millionlights, as well as on Twitter. For more such interesting tutorials on coding, app development, and building rich UIs, keep watching Microsoft Art of Code, brought to you by Millionlights. Thank you.